right, hey, I am pumped for just the word that God has for us tonight, but I also want to get real for a second. All right, here at Legacy, we talk about how we want it to be not just a safe place for you guys, not just a place that says you belong here, but we want to get real too. So I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Right now, your guys' lives are stressful. Am I right? Right, with school, with craziness that's going on. Maybe we got family stuff going on. Maybe the end of the year trying to figure out, maybe those of us that are upperclassmen are starting to think about, hey, what's next, right? Like, I might be a junior going to my senior year. I don't even know where I want to go to college. Maybe for some of us, we're trying to figure out what college looks like. Maybe for some of us, we're just trying to figure out high school. Anybody been there? You guys feeling it? You can put your hand up. All right, that's good because it shows everybody that you're not the only one that's alone, right? It's a stressful season. It's a stressful season for you guys. You guys got the end of the school year. You guys got the sports that you guys are finishing up. All of this stuff is crazy. And here's what happens. It's really easy for that stuff to creep into our lives. And then we walk into a place like this, and it's easy for us to not want to be here because either mom and dad forced us to be here, or we're thinking about that test we have this next week, and we're like, you know what? I could be at home studying right now. Like, why am I here? I'm wasting time. I got all of these different distractions. So here's what I want to say. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay that stuff's going on. What's not okay is for us to ignore it. So here's what I want us to do tonight. Whatever the distraction is that you have, whether it's schoolwork, family, maybe you're wrestling with some stuff that's on the inside, maybe you got a sin that keeps creeping up in your life that you're like, yo, I can't kick this. Whatever it is, I want you to hold on to that tonight. Don't ignore it. Don't push it away, but hold on to it as we focus in on the word that God has for us. Because I think whatever that thing is that might be keeping you from being all in right now, that hopefully the word that God has for us tonight, we will find more peace. We might find healing in that. And so that's my hope for us tonight as we jump into it. Now, we're starting a new series tonight called The Rabbit Listened. Everybody say The Rabbit. That was terrible. Everybody say The Rabbit. Say listened. How many of you guys growing up, when you were little, you're in elementary school, you had that like book that you would run to mom and dad and be like, yo, I need you to read me this or else I'm not going to sleep and I'm going to make your life a living hell. Anybody been there? What was your book? What was your book? Go. That's a good one. Go. Fox and Socks. You can rap that one. Go. The Pokey Little Puppy. Oh, that sounds adorable. What else? Anybody else? Go. Say it louder. Classic. Classic. See, we all have these stories, right? Some of us maybe have some different ones. Here's the deal. Maybe you didn't have these stories. Maybe your family wasn't into that. Like my family, we didn't really have bedtime or whatever. It was movie time. We watched a movie and then we go to bed. That was our thing. But maybe you babysat. Maybe you've helped in the kids area. And you have those kids that are like, can you read me this book? And you're just like, oh my gosh, this is the 12th time. This is a lot. But it's their comfort book. Here's the thing. We're about to read a children's book together. The Rabbit Listened is a children's book. Now, I know we're all mature and we're grown up in this room. So we're not reading it because you're children. No, we're reading it because as an adult, I came across this book. I gotta be honest. It profoundly, and I mean profoundly, impacted and changed my life. And it's a children's book. So here's what I need. If we're going to do this thing right, if we're going to have story time together, I need somebody that knows how to read children's books really, really well. I feel like that's a good option. But here's the thing. I feel like you just show up to libraries and read in front of hundreds of children. That is kind of weird. I take that back. So here's what I need you to do, though. I feel like he does have children. You get Jeremy, we need your help. We're about to read a children's book together, but we need you to read the book for us. So we're going to throw it up on the screen, but I need you to be loud. I also need you to be willing to mix up the characters. Are you able to do that? There's different characters, so maybe different voices or something. All right, you got that? All right. Hey, everybody, you guys think Jeremy can do this for us? I think so. All right. You're just going to read the slide. Start with the name of the book. That's not loud enough.
The rabbit.
There it is. All right, next. Just keep going every time he reads one.
One day, Taylor decided to build something. Something new. Something special. Something amazing. Taylor was so proud. But then, out of nowhere, things came crashing down. The chicken was the first to notice.
This is where it's to get fun.
What a shame! I'm sorry this happened. Let's talk about it. But Taylor didn't feel like talking. So the chicken left angry. Next came the bear. Roar! Roar! How horrible! I bet you feel so angry. Let's shout about it. Roar! 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 But Taylor didn't feel like shouting, so the bear left.
There's a lot more in the book, so if you could read faster.
Just what to do. Trump, I can fix this. We just need to remember exactly the way things were. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering, so the elephant also left. One by one, they came. The hyena. Let's laugh about it. The ostrich. Go. Let's hide and pretend nothing happened. The kangaroo. Tisk, tisk, tisk. One fast. Let's throw it all away. And the snakes. Let's go knock down something else. But Taylor didn't feel like doing anything with anybody. So eventually, they all left. Until Taylor was all alone. In the quiet, Taylor didn't even notice the rats. But they moved closer and closer until Taylor could feel his warm body. Together, they sat in silence until Taylor said, "Please stay with me." The rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted. The rabbit listened as Taylor remembered and laughed. The rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to hide, to throw everything away, to ruin things from someone else. Through it all, the rabbit never left. And when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plan to build again. "I can't wait," Taylor said. "It's going to be amazing."
All right, everybody give it up for Jeremy. Dude, I just realized we got to read more children's books and have you read them every time. That was awesome. Well, hey, here's what I love about this story. The message in this story, let's just be real, I think we've all been there, right? I think we've all been Taylor. We've all had a moment where maybe this is our life, right? Maybe we got this tower that we build in, this represents our life. Maybe we got all these cool things going on, right? Maybe for some of us, we're like trying to figure out, let's see here. This one's easy. We're like trying to figure out we're going to go to college one day. Maybe for some of us, we're trying to figure out, is this relationship going to last that I'm in? Maybe for some of it, we're trying to figure out our grades because, let's be honest, they are not good. And we're like, school is almost over. And what happens is we're building this thing. And for many of us, we're just trying to get to the next day, right? Maybe for some of us, we're not even trying to think down the road. And what ends up happening, I think, for many of us is just like Taylor, something comes in. Maybe it's somebody. Maybe it's a situation. And our tower crashes down. And then here's what we feel. Just like him, we feel alone. And we have all of these emotions. Now, let me know. You can raise your hand or whatever. But in that moment, have you ever felt like Taylor, where maybe somebody comes along, and maybe they have the right heart, but they're like, hey, you want to talk about it? And you're like, no. Hey, you want to yell and scream about it? No. Hey, we're going to fix it. It's like, nope, I don't want to fix it. And have you ever been there? I have. If you've ever been there, me too. I think that's a normal feeling. It's a normal feeling for us to be in that place. When life is so crazy, we have so many things going on that we can feel like Taylor. We're just, our tower came crashing down. Our life came crashing down. We're alone. We have all of these emotions, and all we want to do is sit. We don't want anybody to talk to us. We don't want to process anything. Here's why I think we do this. Our lives are 1,000 miles per hour. I mean, think about just the end of school, right? How many of you guys are overwhelmed? You're like, yo, I got like 50 things on my calendar. I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. I was looking at my calendar the other day, and I saw like meeting. And then it was like, I go home, I spend time with family. Then the next day it was like, I got all this stuff going on. And I just got overwhelmed thinking about all of the overwhelming things I had going on in my schedule. Like, it was overwhelming. That's what overwhelming feels like. It's like it just keeps adding and piling on, right? And so I didn't know what to do. I gotta be honest. I was like feeling all of these different emotions, and my life was go, go, go. And I think for many of us, we feel this way too. I think many of us feel overwhelmed. We feel burnt out. We feel like we're ready to give up. We feel like we got so many things in our life that it's like, you know what? I don't see the hope. I don't see Jesus in this. I don't see a way out of this. I'm just gonna sit here. And so here's what we're going to do, and then we're going to come back here. Obviously, the seating's a little bit different today, and here's why. We're going to break this up. So I'm going to send it back to you guys here with your leaders, and I'll give you kind of the first question. And you guys talk about it, and then we'll come back, and we'll jump into the rest of the message tonight. But here's what I want you guys to talk in your group, all right? What stood out to you about the story? What character did you relate with? And then the last thing, super simple, and I want you to be honest, all right? This is high school, so whatever. Don't BS it. All right? How are you doing? Talk about it. Hey, if you didn't have enough time, no worries. There's going to be another group time, so you guys can come back to whatever you didn't talk about. But I hope your time was good. We're going to keep moving, though. So bring it in. Shh. All right, so as we kind of continue this conversation, we're going to be using a phrase that might be a little weird, a little different. Our family team had the opportunity to go away to a conference pretty recently. We got to just sit under the wisdom of some amazing leaders and pastors and stuff. And so there's a guy by the name of Carlos Whitaker. I've read a few of his books before. The guy's great. You should check him out. But I got to take one of his sessions, and he had a phrase that I thought was really, really important, and I thought was good. And it was called how to human. So everybody say that. How to human. I know it's weird. Say how to human. Let's do it again. How to human. All right, so here's what he meant by that. You're probably wondering, what the heck does that mean, how to human? Here's what we're gonna be kind of chasing after. We're gonna be using the word human as almost a verb. All right? So just like how to work out, how to run, how to write, or whatever, we're gonna talk a little bit about how do we human. Like, how do we live our life? How do we kind of live, but more importantly, live the life that Jesus wants us to live, the one that he has given us and that he plans for us. And so, I don't know about you, I'm not humaning very well. That's not a word, I just made it up. But I'm not doing it well. My life is crazy. It's hectic. It's not balanced. I need to do a better job. And if I had to guess, I'd say that many of us in this room probably do as well. And so in your groups, we ask this question, how are you doing? In other words, how are you living your life? How's it feel? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it balanced? Is it too much this way, too much that way? I don't know. Only you guys know, and that's what your time for your small groups is, to be able to talk about that a little bit so we can chase after it. But I think it's important that we talk about this. If we're going to talk about how to human, I think we need to look at the greatest human that ever lived. We're going to look at Jesus. Now, here's the thing. I also believe that Jesus is 100% God. I also believe that he's 100% human. As a Christian, I believe that he can be both of those things. I get it. That's confusing. There's much smarter people that have written books about how that can be possible. So if you have questions, I'm going to send you there because I'm not smart enough to tell you. All right? But here's what I do know. Jesus had this side of him, the 100% human thing. And whether you believe in God or not, I think it's important that we look at this. Because even though he was 100% God, he allowed himself to be 100% human, which means he had to operate his life in a very relatable way to you and I. But here's the thing. Jesus was perfect. We're not. Right? And I'm sure that many of us shared in our groups or have stuff maybe we didn't share, but we feel it on the inside where we go, yeah, my life is not perfect. It is far from that. So what better way to learn how to human than look at the only person that has ever been perfect? So here's not what I'm calling us to do. I'm not calling us to be perfect people. That's a stigma around church. We're not called to be perfect people, but what I am calling us to do is to follow the one who is perfect. And so that's what we're going to be doing as we chase after this. But here's the deal. This is going to be risky. All right, what we're about to look at, it's going to be risky. And to live like Jesus is risky. Here's why. Because he's perfect, to live like him is going to require us to change things in our life in order to make it more like the life that Jesus wants us to have. There's things in all of our stories, ways that we are all operating that are not like Jesus. And if we want to be more like him, we have to be willing to sacrifice some things and maybe change some things about how we have a rhythm in our life. So we're going to be in Acts chapter 8, starting in verse 26. I'm just going to jump into it. We're going to have it up on the screen, so you guys can just look up there for now. But we got this guy named Philip. Everybody say Philip. That was terrible. Everybody say Philip. Beautiful. And we got this guy Philip, so we're going to be looking a little bit at his story. So I'm going to jump in. An angel of the Lord spoke to Philip. Get up and go south to the road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. This is the desert road. So he got up and he went. There was an Ethiopian man, a eunuch, and a high official of Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who was in charge for her entire treasury. He had come to worship in Jerusalem and was sitting in his chariot on his way home, reading the prophet Isaiah aloud. Now here, we're only going to look at these verses tonight. We're actually going to jump into all of this story on a different week. But right now, I want to jump into just these few verses. And up at the beginning, it says, the angel of the Lord spoke to Philip. Here's why that's important. Philip is no different than you and I, which means that he heard the voice of God, which means for us in this room, every single one of us has been created with the capacity to hear the voice of God. The reality is, though, not many of us believe that, do we? I mean, Tanner, I haven't heard from God in a long time, man. Or I've been searching for God's voice, and I just can't seem to find it. Like, I'm struggling with that. Hey, if that's you, I get it. But I think this is the next part of the verse that's really important for us if you're struggling with finding God's voice. Here's what it says. Then the angel said to him, get up. It says get up. Why is that important? Here's what's going on. All right? Angel's talking to Philip. If he means get up, that means Philip was doing this. This dude was just chilling. He was watching a movie. He was playing Xbox, right? And the angel's like, hey, I got something for you to do. I need you to get up. So he's like, all right, I'm going to get up. I'm going to get off my butt, and I'm going to follow God. But here's the thing. In order for us to hear God's voice, I think this idea is really foreign to us. Because the angel goes to him and says, get up. Why is he saying that? He's resting. He's relaxing. He's spending time with God. Do we do that? I'll be honest, I don't. Not like I should. In our culture, we don't rest, right? We just talked about this a second ago. Our schedules are crazy. See, I think for us in 2023, God never changes how he speaks. He is the same today as he was yesterday. But in our culture, culture's changed. And I think in order for us, if we want to hear God's voice, here's how I think we got to do it. You ready? Chill out. Slow down. Hit pause. Yo, you're athletic. Maybe you don't need to be doing 7 sports. Maybe that's why you feel burnt out. Maybe for some of us, maybe it's okay to say no. Maybe the reason your schedule is packed is because you don't know how to say no to somebody. And then at the end of your week, you're like, I haven't gotten time to myself, and I got finals. Like, what's going on? And we start to feel overwhelmed. We start to feel like that story, right? Where our tower comes crashing down. See, if we want to hear God's voice, sometimes we just have to chill out. We have to take time to relax, take time to rest, and slow down. All right, don't miss this. We need to slow down if we want to catch up to God. See, I think when we look at the life of Jesus, here's the pace that Jesus lived at. You guys ready? Super simple. Jesus lived his life at this pace. But for us, we run 1,000 miles per hour every day, right? We're running to class, we're running to our sport, we're running to the next thing. But when we look at the life of Jesus, he slowed it down. He walked everywhere because he was able to be present. And the reason that's important, the reason that this pace for our life is important, is because when Jesus felt overwhelmed, because he slowed it down, he could always hear the voice of the Father. So whenever he needed it, he could rest in the Father. And I think for us, we need to slow it down. But here's the thing. We don't like it. Because slowing down is uncomfortable for us. And we find it weird, just like how I'm talking is driving you crazy. Right? How weird was that? We're like, I don't operate on that. You're like, hurry up. Let's get to the point, right? Well, here's the point. We don't know how to rest. We don't know how to stop, to slow down, and to be in silence with God. Matter of fact, it's kind of awkward. I'll show you. Y'all, that was 40 seconds. That felt like 4 years. I felt like it was never gonna end. I was like up here, like starting to like, all right, let's go. Like getting like agitated, right? How weird was that? We don't know how to slow down. If we can't slow down for 40 seconds, I think we got an issue, right? Especially if this is the pace that God walks at, that God speaks at. No wonder we can't hear his voice sometimes. We're running too fast. We got to slow down. We have to be able to hear what God has to say. So this got me thinking. I was thinking about this. I was like, you know what? How crazy is my life right now? Like, so I kind of paid attention to like my days off and all this kind of stuff. And I started to realize something, that even on my days off, when I'm sleeping, like napping, I'm really just in my bed, lazy, watching Netflix, playing video games or whatever, saying that that's sleeping. But even then, I'm not stopping to rest with God. I'm on TikTok, I'm checking Facebook, I'm checking ESPN, and then all of a sudden I've spent hours making my mind race on different things. And so it got me thinking. I looked at my screen time. Don't do that. That's terrifying. My average screen time a day was 6.5 hours. I was like, no, it's not. That's not at all what my screen time is. And then I looked up, the American average is 5 hours a day to be on our phones 24/7. But here's the thing. We think we're resting, but we're not, right? We're not giving our mind a break. More importantly, we're not giving our soul a break. And so our life is 1,000 miles per hour. But here's the thing. I did the math, all right? We do the math, and it adds up. If we're doing 5 hours a day, that's the average. Some of you guys are probably like 8 or 9. Maybe you're at 6. Maybe some of you guys are like, I'm at 2. Still, 5 hours a day. We do the math. That adds up to 2 entire days of our week. We're looking at a screen, taking up material. Fast forward that math. Almost 2 months of the year, we are wasting our time consuming stuff just on a screen. Then I looked at my life, and if I live to 70, I'm just talking, I didn't want to go further because math's hard for me. But if I look to 70, right, in my lifetime, if I live to 70, I will have wasted, if I just do 5 hours a day, and mine's above that, I will have wasted 9 years of my life to a screen, consuming stuff, not resting. I was like, no. I was like, that's 9 years of my life that I would like back, please, right? That I could be spending time with God, that I could be spending time with my family, that I could be spending time with people that I love. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes we need that, right? Sometimes we need to go on TikTok, watch a couple, videos and stuff, spend an hour on there, whatever. But when it comes to something that we don't turn our brains off, when we don't turn our lives down to spend time with Jesus, it starts to ramp up. And so I'm going to get vulnerable. I'm going to get real with you guys. I'm going to move this, actually. Not easy for me to talk about. When I was a youth pastor down in Colorado Springs, Chandler, wherever Chandler's at, did he leave? I think he left. I think he's just in the lobby. Chandler was one of my students at that church. We did this thing where we went and did some homeless ministry. I got to be honest, I was not in a good place during that time. My life was just crazy. I actually started interviews here during that time when we took that trip. And so I had all these different things on my mind, like, man, is this the church that you're calling me to, God? Like, am I supposed to stay here? Like, trying to figure out what God's next thing for me was. And then I have family stuff that popped up with my mom. Some of you guys know a little bit of my story of just the divided household that I had. My parents were divorced. There's lots of abuse with my stepdad, and then lots of neglect and stuff with my real father. And so all of this stuff's happening, and I'm processing this all at once, right? Like this childhood and stuff. And I was like, I went to therapy. I thought I got it all fixed. And it's just all creeping up at one time. And then I started to realize that the enemy was attacking me with all of this stuff because I was in this mode where I was going 1,000 miles per hour. And then I looked back, and I had been a youth pastor for like 5 years at that church, at Discovery at that point. And I realized that probably for about 3.5 of it, I was running at an unhealthy pace. And I realized, you know what? I haven't stopped to rest with God. When that happened, we're going around, we're taking our students around. I'm processing all these different things, right? And it made me kind of think of where we're at in this scripture. So I kind of went to it. I'm not going to throw it up on screen because I wasn't planning to talk about this, but I feel like God brought it up. So we're going to look at it real quick. But in this story, it says later on that God tells Philip to go to this eunuch, this Ethiopian man, and it says to go into his carriage. He says, hey, I want you to go into the carriage. Here's what I was doing in my life when it came to what God was calling me to do. I didn't want to jump in the carriage. I was like, that's too uncomfortable for me. I'm going to keep these walls up. Like, I'm not jumping. I'm going to stay at the road. Like, I'll say hi. You know, I'll talk to the guy over there. And in this moment, as I'm processing kind of this stuff of these walls that I've put up over 3.5 years, it was hard because I was like, you know what, God, I've done all of this stuff for you. Why do I feel this way? Why do I have all these walls up? Like, why I've been running at this unhealthy pace? Well, we're going. And I'm walking down the street with these students, and there's a homeless man on the side of the road. We make eye contact. And I knew I was running at an unhealthy pace because when I made eye contact, my reaction was, go away. And yet I knew God was saying, talk to him. And I went, nope, nope. If it wasn't for one of our students, his name's Josiah, Josiah saw this man. Now, Josiah runs at the slowest pace, I think anybody. That kid is hilarious. Chandler's laughing. Like, he'll talk to you, and you're like, are you okay? But he's also the most loving person I've ever met. If there's anybody that defines the love of Jesus, it's that kid. He sees this man, not the youth pastor, a student. And he comes up to me, and he goes, hey, Tanner, I think we're supposed to go talk to that man. I was like, oh, no. Like, we got to keep going. We got somewhere to go. He said, no. I think we need to, like, talk to this man. I was like, okay. Yeah, sure. So we walk over, and I witnessed Josiah talk with this dude. The guy's name was Charles. Charles starts to tell us his whole story, how he lost his job, how his family kind of left him. And then he asked us a question that hit me hard. He said, hey, are you guys Christians? And we went, yeah, we are. And he's like, no. Like, let me ask it. Are you close with God? I'm a youth pastor. My answer to the first question was yes. My answer on the inside of that second question, no. I was like, you know what, I'm actually struggling. I'm wrestling with some things. This man prayed over our students. He was like, let me tell you, if you're not close with God, bring it in. We're going to get close with God. And he brings us all in, and he prays for us. I lost it. I start crying. And this guy looks at me in the eyes, and he goes, brother, you are loved by God. Stop running. I lost it some more. I was a mess, right? Here's the cool thing about this story. We divided our youth group up across the city, right? And so they're like in teams with their leaders and stuff, and they went and helped people around the city. We all came together at the end to talk about what we got from the day. And I think we had about 5 groups maybe that went out. 4 of those 5 groups came back and they're like, let me tell you about Charles. And we were like, you met Charles? I met Charles. You met Charles? I met Charles. One of our students, I think it might have been from your group, Chandler, I can't remember, but one of the students shared, like, there's something he said that impacted my life, and it relates to everything we're talking about tonight. They asked him a question of, like, hey, how can we be praying for you? And he was like, hey, as a homeless man, like, obviously there's a lot of difficulties with this. He's like, but, like, I get bullied a lot for being a Christian. I get beat up a lot. He's like, but you know what? He's like, I have Jesus. That's all I need. That's all I need. And I'm over here thinking, what's my next job going to be? Well, I got to figure this out. Like, I got to figure this out in my life. I got to figure this out in my life. And to me, that was the most convicting thing I heard. Because it was like, you know what? This dude literally has nothing. And he went, Jesus is enough. Why? Because he slowed his life down to the point where he is literally just him and Jesus. And for me, I had 1,000 things in my life that took the place of Jesus. And it showed me, you know what? If I can't say the same thing that Charles can say, I'm running at an unhealthy pace. There's some things in my life that I need to change. So where are you at? I want to ask that question again. Don't BS it. How are you doing? Like, really? Is Jesus enough? What wall do you have up right now that, like I had when I was talking with Charles, that maybe the answer to that question is making it no? Is it your schedule? Is it family? Is it a past church experience? Is it all 3? What is the wall that you have that's keeping you from saying, yeah, Jesus is enough? Now, here's the cool thing about the passage that we just looked at. Philip jumps into the carriage. He has this amazing conversation, and I don't have time to look at it, so I encourage you to go look at it in Acts chapter 8. But the beautiful thing about that is every single one of us that's walked into this room, we all have a carriage. But here's what we do. We put our walls up, and you know what they are. And we go, you know what? I don't know this person very well in this group. I don't know that person. I'm not close to that leader or this. And so, you know what? I'm going to go on the side of the road, and I'll kind of get in the carriage. That's not how Jesus operates. That's not what God is telling Philip in this moment. He's saying, hey, no. All in. Now, that's overwhelming. That's risky. But what helps is not to do it at 1,000 miles per hour. What helps is to slow it down. Listen to God's voice. If you can't hear it, maybe you need to keep slowing it down. Maybe you need to keep resting in who He is. Last thing, and then we're going to go to groups, and we're going to end with some worship. If there's anything I've learned in my life, I'm not that old, but the biggest thing I've learned in my life is that God usually speaks in whispers. I've only had one time in my life, it's when I gave my life to Jesus, where I felt like it was this thunderous, like, God's here, oh my gosh, I gotta give my life to Him, right? I've only had that happen once. Almost all the other times in my life that I've heard God's voice, it's in the quiet moments where I slow it down and I rest in Him. So, let's go to groups, let's talk about this. How are you running right now? And let's get real vulnerable. Let's get real with each other. What is maybe a wall that is keeping you from slowing it down or keeping you from saying that Jesus is enough? Talk about it.